I stood there in our cramped Boston apartment, the ever-present sounds of the harbor drifting through the half-open window, my hands still damp from washing the dinner dishes. My name's Michael Doyle, and for years I'd taken pride in my job as head mechanic at one of the busiest shipyards on the waterfront. It wasn't glamorous, fixing engines, welding hulls, making sure every vessel was seaworthy for the executives who chartered them, but it was honest. It kept the lights on, put food on the table, and gave me a quiet kind of dignity I'd always held on to. Rebecca, my wife, had never seemed to mind, or so I thought. That night, though, everything changed. She walked in from her shift at the boutique clothing store, her heels clicking sharply against the hardwood floor, her face tight, like she'd been holding something in all day. I could tell something was off, but I didn't push. I never did. She dropped her purse on the counter, avoided my eyes, and then after a long pause, she finally let it out. "Please don't come to my brother's wedding," she said, her voice low but firm. I frowned, wiping my hands on a dish towel, confused as hell. "Why?" I asked, thinking maybe I'd missed something, some family drama I hadn't caught wind of. She sighed, heavy and irritated, like I was making this harder than it needed to be. "I don't want people to know you're just a mechanic," she said. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Just a mechanic. I stood there staring at her, my mouth dry, trying to process it. I'd never hidden what I did, never saw a reason to. But the way she said it, like it was some dirty secret, made my chest ache. Before I could even find words, she kept going, her voice colder now, sharper. "I'll say you're dead," she said. "Never contact me again." I froze. Dead. My own wife was ready to bury me, erase me from her life like I was nothing. I looked into her eyes, those hazel eyes I'd fallen for years ago, and saw nothing but resolve. No regret, no softness, just a woman who'd already made up her mind. I'd always known Rebecca came from money, a family with fancy dinners and big houses, while I was just a guy from the working side of town. But ashamed? That was new. That cut deeper than anything I'd ever felt. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just stood there, the silence stretching between us, heavy and suffocating. "You're serious?" I finally said, my voice quieter than I meant it to be. She didn't answer, just turned away, her shoulders stiff. That was it then. Years of marriage, cooking together, laughing over dumb TV shows, holding her when she cried about her dad passing, gone. All because I wasn't good enough for her brother's big day. I don't even remember deciding to leave. It just happened. I walked to our bedroom, pulled my old duffel bag from the closet, and started shoving clothes inside. My work boots, my flannel shirts, the socks with holes I'd been too lazy to throw out. Every piece felt heavier than it should have, like I was packing up more than just stuff. I was packing up me. She didn't stop me, didn't say a word. I zipped the bag, slung it over my shoulder, and glanced at her one last time. She was staring out the window, arms crossed, like I was already gone. Maybe I was. I stepped out into the cool night air, the door clicking shut behind me, and felt the weight of it all crash down. A broken man. That's what I was. Not because I'd lost her, but because I'd lost something I didn't even know I'd been holding on to. Her respect. The streetlights flickered as I walked. No real plan, just moving. My phone stayed silent in my pocket. No call, no texts, nothing. She'd meant it. I was dead to her. And as I trudged toward the cheap motel a few blocks away, the ache in my chest grew, mixing with a quiet anger I wasn't ready to face. How had it come to this? How had the woman I loved turned me into a ghost? I didn't have answers, not yet. All I had was my bag, my pride, and a job that apparently wasn't worth a damn to the one person who mattered most. I woke up in that cramped motel room, the thin mattress creaking under me, the faint smell of bleach and old cigarette smoke hanging in the air. My name's Michael Doyle, and after Rebecca kicked me out, told me I was dead to her, I didn't have much left but my job, head mechanic at one of Boston's busiest shipyards. It wasn't much to some people, but it was mine. I'd spent years making sure every engine purred, every hull was sound, every vessel spotless for the corporate types who barely noticed me. After that night, with my marriage in pieces, I didn't know what else to do but throw myself into it. Work was the one thing I could control, the one place where I still felt like I mattered. My crew, Hector, Sean, and Maria, noticed I wasn't myself. I'd always been the guy cracking jokes, keeping things light while we worked, but now I was quiet, my head down, my hands moving faster than my mouth. Hector raised an eyebrow one morning, working on an engine beside me, but he didn't ask. Sean gave me a nod like he knew something was up, but figured I'd talk when I was ready. Maria, though, she watched me a little closer, her dark eyes soft with worry. I didn't say anything. What was there to say? My wife was ashamed of me, wanted me gone. I kept it locked inside, let the rhythm of the work drown it out. The shipyard was my kingdom, dozens of boats from sleek yachts to working vessels, and I knew every inch. That morning, I was up on the main dock, checking the supply room, making sure we had enough parts and tools for the day. The sun was just breaking over the harbor, casting long shadows across the polished decks, when I heard footsteps behind me. Heavy, deliberate. I turned, and there he was, James Sullivan, CEO of Sullivan Maritime, the guy who owned half the damn harbor. I'd seen him before, striding across the docks in his tailored suits, but we'd never spoken. He was tall, silver hair swept back, eyes sharp like he could see right through you. "You must be the head of maintenance here," he said, glancing at my uniform, the name tag stitched with Michael in faded thread. His voice was deep, steady, not a hint of judgment. I straightened up, wiping my hands on my pants, feeling a little exposed. "Yes, sir. That's me. I just do my job." He nodded like he was sizing me up, then surprised me with a small smile. "Honest work is the foundation of any great business," he said. "My father started as a shipwright before he built this empire. Never forgot where he came from." I blinked, caught off guard. A shipwright? This guy's dad. Sullivan was a legend, billions in maritime shipping, a name that meant power, and here he was, talking about tools and timber like they mattered. That I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded, my throat tight. "I've heard good things about you," he went on, adjusting his cufflinks. "Keep it up." Then he walked off, his polished shoes clicking against the dock I'd repaired just the night before, leaving me standing there, stunned. I turned back to the supply room, my hand shaking a little as I grabbed a stack of rags. Honest work. Foundation. The word stuck with me, rolling around in my head all day. Rebecca had never seen it that way. My job was a stain to her, something to hide. But this man, this titan, looked at me like I was part of something bigger. It didn't fix the hole she left, didn't erase the sting of her telling me I wasn't good enough, but it lit something small inside me. A flicker of validation I hadn't felt in years. I spent the rest of the shift moving faster, checking every detail twice. Hector caught me polishing an engine that was already gleaming and laughed. "You trying to impress someone, boss?" he teased. I smirked, shrugging it off, but inside, I was holding on to Sullivan's words like a lifeline. My marriage was shattered, sure, but I still had this. My hands, my work, my pride. The executives upstairs might not know my name, but the shipyard did. Every purring engine, every seaworthy vessel, it was mine. And for the first time since Rebecca turned her back on me, I felt like maybe that was enough. Not forever, maybe, but for now. I clocked out that night, the harbor lights glowing outside, and walked back to the motel, my steps a little lighter. I wasn't healed, not even close, but I wasn't nothing. Not yet. I was sitting on the edge of that lumpy motel bed, the TV flickering with some late-night show I wasn't really watching, when the mail came. "My name's Michael Doyle, and after Rebecca told me she'd say I was dead, I've been trying to keep my head above water. Work kept me busy, kept me sane, but the nights were harder, quiet, empty, just me and my thoughts. That day, though, the quiet got louder. I'd grabbed the stack of envelopes from the motel office, mostly junk, ads for car insurance, a pizza coupon, until I saw it. A thick envelope with her handwriting on it, neat and sharp, like everything about her. I knew what it was before I even opened it. Divorce papers. My hands felt heavy as I tore it open, the pages crisp and cold, all legal words and signatures staring back at me. I flipped through them, my eyes blurry, not really reading, just letting the reality sink in. She'd moved fast, faster than I'd expected. Years of marriage, and she couldn't wait to wipe me out of her life for good. Then I got to the last page, and there it was, a little note stuck on with a paperclip, written in her slanted cursive. Don't contact me again. It's better this way. I stared at it, my chest tight, my breath stuck somewhere between anger and disbelief. Better this way? For who? For her, sure. Her fancy family, her brother's perfect wedding, her life where a guy like me didn't fit. But for me? I dropped the papers on the bed, my hands shaking, and just sat there, the room spinning a little. I'd spent years with her, working overtime so she could buy those dresses she loved, cooking her favorite pasta when she had a bad day, listening to her talk about her big plans. I thought we were a team. I thought she saw me. But no, she'd been looking past me the whole time, waiting for a chance to trade up, to scrub me off like dirt on her shoe. I grabbed the pen from the nightstand, the cheap kind with the motel logo on it, and signed the papers right there. My name scrolled big and messy across the line. No hesitation. What was the point? She didn't want me, and I wasn't about to beg. I shoved the pages back into the envelope, sealed it, and tossed it on the dresser like it was nothing. But my heart was pounding. I stood up, paced the tiny room, the carpet worn under my boots. Outside, the city hummed, cars honking, lights flashing, but in here, it was just me and this final betrayal. I'd known she was ashamed of me, known it since that night she told me to stay away from the wedding. But this was her driving the knife in and twisting it. I thought about calling her, just to hear her voice, just to ask why I wasn't enough, why she'd rather kill me off in her story than stand by me. But her note stopped me cold. Don't contact me. She'd made it clear. I was nothing to her now, a ghost she'd already buried. I sank back onto the bed, my head in my hands, trying to breathe through the ache. I wasn't crying, didn't have it in me, but I felt hollow, like she'd scooped out everything I'd built my life around and left me empty. The TV droned on, some guy selling knives, and I almost laughed at how stupid it all was. Here I was, a broken man, signing away my marriage while the world kept spinning like nothing happened. I thought about my job, the one thing she hated, the one thing I still had. Fixing engines, welding hulls. It wasn't much, but it was real. More real than whatever she'd turned us into. I stood up again, grabbed my jacket, and headed out into the night. I didn't know where I was going, just needed to move, to feel the cold air on my face, to shake off the weight of her words. The streets were busy, people laughing, living, and I walked through it all, invisible. I passed a bar, thought about going in, drowning it all in a beer or two, but I kept going. I didn't need that. I needed to feel this, to let it burn, to figure out who I was without her. By the time I got back to the motel, the sky was dark, the stars hidden by city lights. I dropped onto the bed again, the signed papers still sitting there, mocking me. I'd mail them tomorrow, let her have her clean break. But as I closed my eyes, I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't the end of me. She could write me off, but I wasn't done yet. I was wiping down a sleek yacht engine, the smell of oil and polish sharp in the air, when I heard it. My name's Michael Doyle, and after signing those divorce papers, I've been trying to keep my head down, focus on my work, and let the days blur together. Being head mechanic at that big Boston shipyard gave me something to hold on to. Engines to fix, schedules to manage, a routine that didn't ask questions. But the world has a way of sneaking up on you. The Sullivan family, big shots who owned the shipyard and half the harbor, was buzzing about a wedding. James Sullivan's son, Ethan, was marrying Christopher, Rebecca's brother. I'd known it was coming, tried to ignore it, but working where I did made it impossible to escape. Every day, I'd catch snippets, caterers rushing across the docks, florists hauling bouquets, chatter about the event of the year. I didn't want to care, didn't want to think about Rebecca or her family or the life I'd been cut out of. But that morning, down in the main workshop, it hit me anyway. I was alone in the engine room, the glass walls showing off the foggy harbor, when voices drifted in from the hallway. Deep, familiar. James Sullivan himself talking to Ethan. I didn't mean to listen, just kept polishing the engine, my rag moving in slow circles. But their words stopped me cold. I hear Christopher's sister lost her husband years ago, James said, his tone thoughtful, like he was piecing together a story. Tragic thing. I froze, my hand gripping the rag so tight my knuckles went white. Lost her husband. That was me. They were talking about me, or the me Rebecca had invented. Ethan's voice came next, calm and sure. Yeah, Christopher told me his sister's husband died in a boating accident 5 years ago. My stomach dropped. 5 years ago? I'd been with Rebecca then, married, alive, working my ass off to keep us going. No boating accident. No tragedy. Just a lie they'd spun to make me disappear. I stood there, the rag limp in my hand, my breath shallow. They'd erased me completely, turned me into some sad little tale to whisper about at fancy dinners that I wanted to laugh, but it hurt too much. The Sullivans kept talking, their voices fading as they walked off, but I couldn't move. My mind was racing, replaying Ethan's words, Christopher's lie, Rebecca's cold note, don't contact me. They'd built this whole story, buried me in it, and I hadn't even known. How long had they been telling people this? Was it just for the wedding, or had Rebecca been planting this seed for years? I thought about her family, her mom with her pearl necklaces, her dad who'd barely shaken my hand when we met, Christopher with his perfect smile. They'd always looked at me like I didn't belong, but this was next level. I picked up the rag again, started polishing harder now, like I could scrub the whole damn thing away. The engine was already gleaming, but I kept going, my arms burning, my chest tight. I didn't know what to do with it. This anger, this betrayal. Part of me wanted to storm over to Rebecca's place, bang on her door, demand answers. Why a boating accident? Why 5 years? Why not just say we split? But I knew why. A dead husband was cleaner, sadder, something people could pity her for instead of judge her. A divorced wife of a mechanic? That was messy, embarrassing. I stopped polishing, my hands resting on the engine, and let out a long, shaky breath. The workshop was quiet now, just me and the hum of the air vents. I thought about James Sullivan, how he'd praised my work, called it honest. He didn't know the half of it, didn't know the man he'd nodded to was a ghost in someone else's story. I grabbed my toolbox, the wheels squeaking as I pushed it toward the door. I had to keep moving, keep working, because if I stopped, I'd lose it. The lie was out there now, floating around in their world, and I couldn't unhear it. I couldn't unknow it. As I stepped into the elevator, the steel doors closing, I felt something shift inside me. Secrets were unraveling, sure, but they weren't mine. They were hers. And maybe, just maybe, that meant I wasn't the one who had to carry them. I punched the button for the main floor, my jaw tight, and decided right then, I'd let her live her lie. For now. I was sprawled out on the motel bed, the lumpy mattress digging into my back, staring at the cracked ceiling like it might give me answers. My name's Michael Doyle, and I've been trying to forget about the wedding, Christopher's big day with Ethan Sullivan, the event that had my ex-wife Rebecca pretending I'd been dead for half a decade. Work kept me busy, kept my hands moving, but that Saturday, I had no shifts, no engines to fix, nothing to distract me. I'd planned to stay in, keep the TV on low, maybe order a pizza, and let the day pass. I didn't want to be anywhere near that wedding, didn't want to think about Rebecca in some fancy dress, smiling like she hadn't shattered me. The motel room was quiet, just the buzz of the mini fridge and the distant hum of traffic outside. I'd almost convinced myself I could handle it, stay out of it, let them have their lies, when my phone started ringing. I glanced at the screen, and my stomach twisted. Rebecca. Her name lit up, bold and unwanted, and I let it ring out, watching it go to voicemail. I didn't want to hear her voice, didn't want her excuses. But then it rang again. Christopher this time. I frowned, sat up a little, but didn't pick up. What the hell did he want? Then Rebecca's mom called, her number flashing like a warning. I tossed the phone on the bed, my pulse picking up. Something was wrong that IT kept going. Cousins I barely remembered, numbers I didn't even recognize, one after another. Notifications piled up, buzzing like flies I couldn't swat away. I grabbed the phone, muted it, but the screen kept lighting up. Rebecca again. Third time. I stared at it, my thumb hovering over the button, every muscle in me screaming to let it go. but something in my gut wouldn't let me. I answered. What? I said, my voice rougher than I meant it to be. Her breathing came through first, shaky and uneven. Then her voice, small and broken. Michael, please. Please come to the wedding. I need you. I almost laughed, the sound catching in my throat, bitter and sharp. Why would I go? Didn't you say I was dead? I shot back, leaning forward now, my free hand gripping the edge of the bed. She was crying. I could hear it, the soft sobs she used to save for when she wanted me to fix something. I was wrong, she said, her words tumbling out fast. Please, just come. Everything is falling apart. I sat there, stunned, the phone hot against my ear. Falling apart? What did that even mean? The wedding was supposed to be perfect. Christopher and Ethan, the golden couple, the Sullivans, and their money tying it all together. And now she needed me? The guy she'd erased? I didn't say anything for a second, just listened to her breathe, the panic in every hitch. What's going on, Rebecca? I finally asked, keeping my tone flat, not giving her an inch. I can't. Please, just come, she begged, her voice cracking. It's at the Harbor Grand. I'll explain when you get here. The line went dead before I could argue, leaving me with nothing but static and a choice I didn't want to make. I dropped the phone, ran a hand through my hair, and cursed under my breath. I didn't know her anything, not a damn thing. She'd signed me out of her life, mailed me those papers, told her whole world I was gone. But that sound in her voice, desperate, raw, it stuck with me, tugging at something I thought I'd buried. I stood up, paced the tiny room, my boots scuffing the worn carpet. I could ignore it, let her deal with whatever mess she'd made. That's what I should have done. But my mind kept spinning. Why me? Why now? What had gone so wrong that she'd call the guy she'd thrown away? I stopped by the window, the blinds half open, the gray Boston day stretching out beyond the glass. I didn't want to go. Every part of me screamed to stay put, to let her drown in her own lies. But curiosity, or maybe something dumber, like the ghost of who we used to be, won out. I grabbed my jacket, the old leather one she'd always hated, and headed for the door. The Harbor Grand wasn't far, a cab ride I could barely afford, but I'd go. Not for her, I told myself, but for me, to see what kind of chaos could shake her enough to call me back from the dead. I stepped outside, the air cool and damp, and flagged a taxi, my gut churning the whole way there. Whatever was waiting, I'd face it, but I wasn't fixing anything. Not this time. I sat in the back of that cab, the leather seats creaking under me, the city flashing by in a blur of gray and glass. My name's Michael Doyle, and I was on my way to the Harbor Grand Hotel, dragged there by Rebecca's desperate voice echoing in my head. Please come. I need you. I didn't want to go, didn't want to step back into her world after she'd kicked me out of it. But here I was, my hands clenched in my lap, my old leather jacket feeling out of place even in my mind. The driver didn't talk, just hummed along to some scratchy radio song, and I was glad for the quiet. I kept asking myself why I'd said yes, why I was doing this, but I didn't have a good answer. Maybe I just needed to see it, whatever mess she'd made, with my own eyes. The Harbor Grand loomed up ahead, all fancy stone and glowing lights, the kind of place I'd never belonged. I paid the driver with crumpled bills, stepped out, and felt the weight of it hit me. People in suits and dresses flowed through the doors, laughter and music spilling out, the wedding in full swing. Or at least, it had been. The second I walked inside, I knew something was off. Heads turned, eyes locked on me, whispers rippling through the crowd like I was some ghost crashing the party. I stuffed my hands in my pockets, kept my head up, and then I saw her, Rebecca, rushing toward me across the marble lobby, her heels clicking fast. She looked like a wreck, her fancy dress wrinkled, mascara streaking her face, tears turning her into someone I barely recognized. Michael, she gasped, grabbing my arm, her fingers digging in. Thank God you're here. I pulled back a little, frowning. What's going on? I asked, my voice steady even though my gut was twisting. She looked around, nervous, like she didn't want anyone to hear, then leaned in close. They know, she whispered, her breath hot against my ear that I raised an eyebrow, stepping back again. Know what? She swallowed hard, her hands trembling. Everything, she choked out, her voice breaking. I stood there, staring at her, trying to piece it together. Everything. What the hell did that mean? She grabbed my sleeve again, pulling me toward a quieter corner, away from the gawking guests. James Sullivan found out, she said, her words spilling out fast. He knows you're not dead, knows I lied about it all. He confronted Christopher and me, and Ethan. Oh God, Ethan's furious. He's talking about calling off the wedding. My head spun. James Sullivan, the CEO who'd praised my work, knew the truth. I crossed my arms, keeping my distance, watching her fall apart. So your lie blew up? I said, keeping it simple, my tone flat. And now what? Her eyes went wide, pleading. You have to fix this, Michael. Please. I almost laughed right there, the sound bubbling up bitter and sharp. Fix it? Me? The guy you've thrown away? And why would I do that? I asked, leaning against the wall, my jaw tight. You told them I was dead. You signed me out of your life. Why the hell should I clean up your mess? She flinched, tears spilling faster now, but I didn't soften. I'd spent years bending over backwards for her, working late, swallowing her little digs about my job, and I was done. I was wrong, she said, her voice small. I know that now. I shouldn't have. I didn't mean. Didn't mean what? I cut in, stepping closer, my voice low but hard. To tell your whole family I died in some fake boating accident? To make me a stranger in my own life? What didn't you mean, Rebecca? She shrank back, wrapping her arms around herself, sobbing now. I was scared, she said. Scared of what they'd think, scared of losing everything. I thought it'd be easier if you were just gone. I stared at her, the words sinking in. Easier. That's what I'd been to her, a problem to erase. I took a deep breath, let it out slow, trying to keep the anger from boiling over. Well, it's not easier now, is it? I said. She shook her head, her hands covering her face, and I just watched, feeling the distance between us stretch wider than ever. The lobby buzzed around us, guests milling, staff whispering. But it was like we were in our own little bubble, her desperation and my coldness filling the space. I didn't know what she expected me to do. Walk in there, charm the Sullivans, save her brother's wedding? I wasn't that guy. Not anymore. Please, Michael, she said again, reaching for me. I stepped back, out of her grasp. You made this bed, I said. Lie in it. And with that, I turned, ready to walk away. Except I didn't. Not yet, because part of me still wanted to see how this played out. I stood there in that fancy Harbor Grand lobby, Rebecca's tear-streaked face still in front of me, her pleas ringing in my ears. But I wasn't moving, not yet. My name's Michael Doyle, and I'd come this far, against every bit of sense I had, because my ex-wife begged me to fix her mess. She'd lied about me being dead, and now the truth was out, unraveling her brother's wedding to Ethan Sullivan. I could have walked away, left her to drown in it, but something held me back. Maybe curiosity, maybe the old habit of wanting to help her. So I nodded, sharp and reluctant, and said, fine, let's see this through. Her eyes lit up, relief washing over her, and she grabbed my arm again, pulling me toward the ballroom. The doors swung open, and I stepped inside, the air thick with tension, chandeliers glittering above like they were mocking the chaos below. The room was packed, guests in tuxes and gowns, waiters frozen with trays, all eyes turning to me like I'd just crashed the party. And there at the front stood James Sullivan, his silver hair catching the light, his face hard as stone. Next to him was Ethan, tall and stiff, his jaw clenched, and Christopher, Rebecca's brother, looking pale and small in his wedding suit. The silence was deafening, pressing down on me as I walked forward, Rebecca trailing behind, her breath shaky as James's gaze locked onto me, sharp and steady, and he spoke first. So, he said, his voice cutting through the room, you're the man I was told had been dead for 5 years. I stopped a few feet away, my boots scuffing the polished floor, and took a deep breath. Yes, sir, I said, meeting his eyes. But I'm very much alive. The room went dead quiet, like everyone was holding their breath, waiting for what came next. I could feel Rebecca behind me, shrinking into herself, but I didn't look back. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about me. James tilted his head, studying me, and I didn't flinch. Guess I owe you an explanation, I said, my voice deep even though my heart was pounding. My wife, ex-wife, decided I didn't fit her story. Said I was just a mechanic, nothing more, and she was ashamed of it. So she told everyone I died, boating accident, 5 years back, signed the divorce papers, and told me never to contact her again. A murmur rippled through the crowd, low and shocked, but I kept going, the words spilling out now, raw and real. I didn't know about the lie till a few days ago. Overheard it right here in your shipyard, Mr. Sullivan. Been working my job, keeping my head down, while she built a whole life without me in it. I paused, letting it sink in, my hands flexing at my sides. That's the truth. All of it. James's expression didn't change, but his eyes narrowed, flicking to Rebecca, then to Christopher. Ethan stepped forward, his face dark with anger, and turned to Christopher. You knew about this? He asked, his voice low but cutting. Christopher's hands twisted in his suit jacket, his lips trembling. Ethan, I swear, I didn't. I mean, I knew she said he was gone, but I didn't what? Ethan snapped, cutting him off. Didn't think it mattered? Didn't think I'd care? Your family's been lying to me, Christopher. Christopher's face went ashen, tears welling up, and he shook his head, but it was too late. The room felt like it was shrinking, the air heavy with the weight of it all. I stood there, watching it unfold, my chest tight, but my head clear. I'd said my piece, laid it bare, and now it was theirs to deal with. James raised a hand, quieting the whispers, and looked at me again. You're the head mechanic at my shipyard, he said, like he was putting it together. The one I spoke to. I nodded. Yes, sir. Been doing the job for years. Took pride in it, even if she didn't. His mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but something close. Then he turned to Ethan. Son, what do you make of this? Ethan didn't hesitate. If this family can lie about something this serious, he said, his voice cold, how do I know what else they've lied about? I refuse to marry into deception. Christopher gasped, a sob breaking free, and Rebecca grabbed my arm again, whispering, Michael, do something. But I shook her off, stepping back. I've done enough, I said, loud enough for her to hear, for them all to hear. This isn't my fight. Ethan looked at Christopher one last time, then turned away, walking toward the doors, his shoulders stiff. The crowd parted, stunned, and I watched him go, knowing it was over. The wedding was dead, just like I'd been to them. Only this time, it was real. I stood in that glittering ballroom, the chandeliers casting light across the stunned faces, the air thick with the fallout of the truth I just dropped. My name's Michael Doyle, and I'd come to the Harbor Grand at Rebecca's begging, laid out her lies for the Sullivans to see, and now the wedding, Christopher and Ethan's big day, was crumbling. Ethan had walked out, his words still hanging heavy. I refused to marry into deception. Christopher was sobbing, his white tuxedo crumpled as he sank into a chair, his hands covering his face. Rebecca was next to me, her breath ragged, her eyes darting around like she could still fix this. I didn't move, didn't say a word, just watched it all unravel, my arms crossed, my boots planted firm on the polished floor. The guests were whispering, some slipping out the doors, others staring like this was some kind of show. I didn't care. I'd done what I came to do, told the truth, and now it was over. Rebecca turned to me, her face a mess of tears and mascara, and grabbed my sleeve. Michael, please, she said, her voice breaking. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I looked down at her, her hazel eyes wide and pleading, the same ones I'd fallen for years ago, and felt nothing. No anger, no pity, just a cold, empty space where she used to be. You don't get it, do you? I said, pulling my arm free. This isn't about forgiveness. You made your choice. Live with it. She flinched, stepping back, her hands trembling. I didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered. I wanted them to see me differently. You didn't think I'd matter. I finished for her, my voice low but steady. You thought you could erase me and nobody would notice. Well, they noticed now. She opened her mouth, then closed it, tears spilling again, but I was done listening. I turned away, ready to leave, when James Sullivan stepped over, his silver hair catching the light, his face calm but firm. "Hold on a minute," he said, his deep voice stopping me cold. I faced him, nodding once. "Sir." He glanced at Christopher, still crying, then at Rebecca, who'd shrunk into herself, before looking back at me. "That took guts, coming here, saying what you did," he said. "I admire men who work hard and take pride in what they do. If I'd known the truth about you from the start, I'd have had a very different impression of this family." I didn't know what to say, so I just stood there, my hands in my pockets, waiting. He adjusted his tie, then dropped a bombshell. "You're wasted as just a mechanic," he said. "I want you to come work for me, head of marine operations for Sullivan Maritime. Better pay, more responsibility. You've earned it." My jaw dropped, just for a second, before I caught myself. "You serious?" I asked, my voice rough that he nodded, a small smile tugging at his mouth. "Dead serious. Think about it. Let me know Monday." Then he turned, heading back to his son's side, leaving me standing there, stunned. Rebecca stared at me, her eyes wide, like she couldn't believe it either. "Michael," she started, but I cut her off with a look. "Don't," I said. "You don't get to talk to me now." She backed off, wrapping her arms around herself, and I watched Christopher for a moment, his dream day shattered, his family's choices crashing down on him. He looked up, caught my eye, and I saw the guilt there, the regret, but I didn't soften. They'd all played their part in this lie, and now they were paying for it. I turned for the doors, the crowd parting as I walked through, my boots loud against the marble. Rebecca called after me, her voice small. "Michael, wait." But I didn't stop. I stepped out into the cool night air, the city sprawling beyond the harbor grand's glow, and took a deep breath. The wedding was off. Christopher was broken. Rebecca was begging. And I was free. I didn't know them anything. Not my time, not my help, not my forgiveness. James's offer rattled around in my head. Head of marine operations. Me. The guy Rebecca was ashamed of, getting a shot like that. I almost laughed, the irony bitter and sweet all at once. I started walking. No cab this time, just me and the streets, the weight of the night lifting with every step. Rebecca's reckoning wasn't mine to carry. She'd lost everything she'd chased, and I'd gained something I didn't even know I'd been looking for, a chance to be more than she'd ever let me be. The skyline glittered ahead, and for the first time in weeks, I felt the ground solid under me. I sat at my new desk, the wood smooth under my hands, the faint hum of the shipyard alive around me. My name's Michael Doyle, and months had passed since that night at the Harbor Grand. Since Rebecca's lies blew up, the wedding fell apart, and James Sullivan offered me a new job, head of marine operations for Sullivan Maritime. I'd said yes, moved out of that dingy motel, and into a small apartment with a view of the harbor. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine, clean, quiet, a fresh start. The job was good, better pay, a team under me, respect I hadn't known I'd been missing. I wasn't just fixing engines anymore. I was running things, making sure the whole operation ticked like a clock. Hector, Sean, and Maria still worked with me, grinning when they saw me in a collared shirt instead of my old coveralls, teasing me about being the boss, now that I'd rebuilt my life piece by piece, and it felt solid, real, like something I could stand on. That day, though, the past came knocking. I was finishing up some paperwork, schedules, supply orders, when the buzzer on my apartment door went off. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I frowned, set the pen down, and walked over to the intercom. "Yeah," I said, leaning in. A pause, then her voice, soft and shaky. "Michael? It's me. Can I come up?" My stomach tightened, but I didn't hesitate. "What do you want?" I asked, keeping it short. "Please," she said. "I just need to talk." I stood there, my hand hovering over the button, every part of me wanting to say no. I didn't need her dragging me back into her mess, not now, not after I'd finally gotten free. But something in her tone, quiet, broken, made me press it anyway. "Fine," I said. "Come up." The wait was short. I heard her footsteps in the hall, slow and hesitant, then a knock. I opened the door, and there she was, Rebecca, standing in my doorway, looking smaller than I remembered. Her hair was pulled back, her coat plain, no trace of the polished woman she'd been at the wedding. Her eyes met mine, red-rimmed, nervous. "Hi," she said, barely above a whisper. I didn't smile, didn't step aside right away. "What's this about?" I asked, my arms crossed. She bit her lip, shifting her weight. "Can I come in? Just for a minute?" I sighed, moved back, and let her step inside. She glanced around. New couch, coffee table, the view through the window, and I saw her take it in, like she was seeing me for the first time. I shut the door, leaned against it, waiting. "I regret everything," she said finally, turning to me, her hands clasped tight. "I was wrong to be ashamed of you. I see that now. I've missed you, Michael." I stared at her, the words hanging there, and felt nothing stir, no warmth, no ache, just a flat calm. She kept going, her voice trembling. "After the wedding, after it all fell apart, Christopher wouldn't talk to me for weeks. Mom blamed me. I lost my job at the boutique. I've been trying to figure out who I am without all that, and I keep coming back to you. To us." I let her talk, let her spill it all, my face still. When she stopped, looking at me like I might throw her a lifeline, I took a slow breath. "You done?" I said. She nodded, hopeful, and I stepped closer, keeping my voice even. "You weren't ashamed of me, Rebecca. You were ashamed of yourself. You couldn't stand that I didn't fit your picture, your family, your big plans. You didn't miss me. You missed the idea of me, fixing things for you, like I always did." Her face crumpled, tears welling up, but I didn't stop. "I'm not that guy anymore. I've got a life now, one you don't get to walk back into because you're lonely or sorry. You made your call. I've made mine." She shook her head, reaching out, but I stepped back, my hand on the doorknob. "Michael, please," she whispered. "I love you." I opened the door, the cool air from the hall rushing in. "You don't," I said. "You never did, not the real me." She stood there, frozen, tears streaming now, and I nodded toward the hall. "Go." She hesitated, then walked out, her shoulders slumped, her steps slow. I shut the door behind her, the click loud in the quiet, and leaned against it, my chest tight, but steady that I waited for the regret to hit, the doubt, but it didn't. I walked to the window, looked out at the water shimmering under the city lights, and felt the weight lift. She was gone, for good this time, and I was still here, standing taller than I ever had with her. I leaned back in the chair on my balcony, the cool Boston breeze brushing my face, a mug of coffee warming my hands. That my name's Michael Doyle, and I'd come a long way from that broken man who'd walked out of Rebecca's life, or who she'd pushed out, depending on how you look at it. It was early, the sun just creeping up over the skyline, painting the harbor in shades of gold and pink. My new apartment wasn't big, but this spot, the balcony, was my favorite. It was quiet up here, just me and the city stretching out below, a view I'd earned. I took a sip of coffee, the bitterness grounding me, and let my mind wander over everything that had happened. Months ago, I'd been sleeping on a motel bed, signing divorce papers, reeling from Rebecca telling the world I was dead. Now, I was head of marine operations for Sullivan Maritime, running a team, making decent money, living in a place I could call my own. I'd lost my wife, lost her long before she ever admitted it, but I'd found something better. Myself. The job kept me busy, and I liked that. I'd walk the docks of that big shipyard every day, checking on my crew, making sure everything ran smooth. Hector would grin at me, fixing an engine, saying, "Look at you, boss man. Too good for a wrench now." I'd laugh, shake my head, and keep moving. Sean and Maria were the same, teasing me about my new clipboard, my office with a window, but they respected me, and that felt good. James Sullivan had kept his word, given me a shot, and I'd taken it. I wasn't just a mechanic anymore. I was building something, proving I was more than Rebecca ever saw. I set the mug down on the little table beside me, the steam curling up into the morning air, and stretched my legs out. The city was waking up, boats honking faint in the distance, seagulls crying over the water, and I felt awake too. Really awake, for the first time in years. Losing Rebecca had gutted me, no question. That night she told me not to come to the wedding, told me I was dead to her. It broke something inside. But sitting here now, I could see it for what it was, a crack that let the light in. She'd taken my pride, my trust, but she couldn't take what I'd built since. I thought about her showing up at my door a while back, all tears and regrets, saying she missed me. I'd shut that down fast, closed the door on her for good, and it didn't haunt me like I thought it might. She wasn't my problem anymore. I didn't hate her, not really, just didn't need her. The coffee was cooling now, but I took another sip anyway, letting it settle me. I'd heard bits and pieces about her since. Christopher still wasn't talking to her. Her mom had cooled off too, and the boutique job was long gone. She'd lost a lot, chasing that perfect life she thought she deserved, and I wondered if she ever looked back and saw where it started. Me. I didn't look back much anymore. Forward was better. New days, new chances. That I stood up, leaned on the railing, and watched a ferry cut across the harbor, slow and steady. My life wasn't perfect, still had bills, still had quiet nights where the past crept in, but it was mine. I'd lost a wife, sure, but I gained my self-respect, and that weighed more than she ever did. I thought about James Sullivan, the man who'd seen something in me when I couldn't see it myself. Honest work, he'd said, and I'd carried that with me. It wasn't just about the job. It was about who I was. I'd spent years thinking I had to prove myself to Rebecca, to her family, but I didn't. I just had to prove it to me. The sun was higher now, the city fully alive below, and I smiled a little, just to myself. I'd head to work soon, put on that collared shirt, walk into that building like I belonged, because I did. The phone buzzed inside, probably Hector texting about some supply mix-up, and I'd deal with it, same as always. But for now, I stayed out here, the breeze on my skin, the coffee in my hand, the skyline ahead. I wasn't the guy Rebecca had thrown away anymore. I was Michael Doyle, alive, steady, and starting over. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough.